Hi everybody, I am creating a screencast using QuickTime Player on my Mac laptop just as an example of what you could do for this assignment. And again, if you do not feel comfortable with technology, feel free to do this just with a regular pencil, paper, submit it, type on the graphic organizer I've given you, any way that you want to do. But I just want to give you this as an option. Plus, I get to talk to you a little bit about the assignment that you're going to do for Module 3. First of all, I have uploaded the graphic organizer that you see on my screen for you. Feel free to use it, change it. I know for my students, they really like graphic organizers. I like to use graphic organizers at the very beginning because it gives them kind of a framework to work from. The image that I'm going to use today is a Beowulf image, and the reason I'm doing this is when I taught AP Literature and we began tragic heroes and looking at archetypes, Beowulf was the text that we started with. And Beowulf, even though it has a fairly low lexile, seemed to be something that my seniors struggled with because of the background information, the context of what was actually happening in the story, etc. So I always started with an image that they could use to try to figure out a little bit about Beowulf. And so I'm going to use that image today, and I'm using it on this site, which is Edu Creations Whiteboard. And you'll see that you can record on here and post, but I really like QuickTime. The reason I'm using this, though, is because it allows me to actually click and draw all over the text, which allows me to then show students what I'm pointing at. I like to do these kind of screencasts if I'm going to be absent, and I have the substitute play them for me. So I've done these a few times, and I really like them. So that's why I'm doing this again. So my essential question basically for students at this point is, what is one characteristic that you can tell about Beowulf? And I've already have explained to them by this point that Beowulf is on the image. He is the one that's right here on the left. This is my Beowulf. And so based on this image, what can they tell about Beowulf? What's the one characteristic that they can tell? Now, a lot of them will immediately shout out, he's really strong. Great. That's a wonderful claim, but I want them to go back to the idea of evidence, and I'm driving home the process of finding the evidence because this will work into the essay that they'll ultimately write for me about Beowulf using evidence from the text, beginning with an image, but ultimately they will land on evidence from the actual text that we're reading. So they know that Beowulf is here on the left. So I'm going to walk through the thinking that a lot of my students would do when I give them this and they're looking for a characteristic. I usually have them start on the left, so I know, or I hope, that they will all start on the left and look for evidence. So the first thing that they should do is start on the left, and most of them would say they are fighting inside. That's sort of their claim, but they can see they're in some sort of maybe arena or they're indoors. So I would expect for them to come up with some evidence. The action is taking place inside. There are shields on the wall. Spears on the wall. Usually and here's where my kids will get confused with evidence. They will have made a claim on this side, and then they'll say, usually if these are hanging on a wall, we are inside. And then they'll get to this side and go, wow, what's my claim? most likely they are fighting inside. And at this point they would really struggle with the why factor. Why are they inside? And so we could look back to evidence. We could go back to your warrant. What is your backing? But a lot of my students would say most likely they're fighting inside because they have an organized fight. And they're going to be thinking like a boxing match, or a lot of them will have come from government or social studies, and they will have some concept of the Romans and the fighting. So some of them will make that claim at this point. Others, though, will notice something immediately. But again, I want them to stay at the left-hand side of the screen or the picture and work their way across before they start to make a claim. So I'm going to move a little bit more quickly because I am not going to drag this out like a full 15 or 20-minute lesson that the kids would be walking through. The next thing that I would hope that they would go from the left is to notice that Beowulf is pulling the arm off of this creature. Beowulf and typically someone who pulls off an arm is strong. Probably Beowulf is incredibly strong. Okay, we're just to make that claim. Quick, short, simple. And then we're going to move back to the image. And at this point, I would hope that they would notice that the creature is large. And below the creature are limbs that are taken off, and they're not the creature's limbs. So at this point, the kids don't know either that the creature is Grendel, so they're still calling him the creature. Or monster. Some of them will say monster, so I'll say the monster. The monster is large, and there is a leg at his feet. Typically, when you have a monster who is large and has a limb at his feet, he is one. And then the kids will be going, but did he do it or did Beowulf do it? Typically when you have a monster who is large and has a limb at his feet, he is the one eating, or they'll say tearing up, men. So the claim is the monster is large. The monster is, let's see, the kids in the past have said, the monster is, let me look through some of their papers here. The monster is, oh, here's one. Mean, violent, and probably is the one attacking the men inside the building. So at this point, some of the students have gone back to what we said at the beginning. The action's taking place inside. Most likely at the beginning they thought it was some sort of organized fight, but the one that I just found, the monster's mean, violent, and is probably attacking the men inside the building. Once this connection happens, then they start to figure out that they're probably being invaded somehow. The monster came in, attacking the men, and that Beowulf is stepping up to fight. I'm going to stop right here simply because, again, in class we would go a lot farther than this in the way that we would work our evidence, and I want to give you the time to actually think about the image that you're going to use. Again, your assignment for this time is to find an image that you could use with your students. It could be an introduction to something you're reading, like I would use for Beowulf. It could be something you're using for science, social studies. You choose. Look at the list of links that I have available to you. If you have other links, please share them with us because we can also use those links ourselves. Once you've found the image, come up with that question that you want your students to answer. It should probably be something simple like this one. What is one characteristic that you can tell about whatever it is that you're looking at? Choose that question wisely. And then walk through what you want your students to do. Think about how they would do it, like I have here, and fortunately I've done this before, so I have a few assignments that I have in front of me that we could walk through. But think about how your students might actually answer the question, how they would look at the image, what evidence that they would find. Second, if that doesn't work for you, think about how you might model this for your student. Our next lesson after this one, Module 4, you're going to do the exact same thing that we're doing today. So maybe this one you want to use as a model, and the one that we do next on Module 4 will be something that you could actually have your students do using your module or your example. Lastly, again, if you want to do something with technology, that's fantastic. If not, you do not have to. Feel free, though, to use this as the time to experiment. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. We are going to praise, question, and polish for our feedback. So don't worry about making mistakes. I made lots of them right here. I hope you saw them and heard them. We want this to be an environment where we'll learn from each other, and that praise, question, and polish that happens on Sunday will be incredibly helpful to us to make the actual assignment much better. And this is something that you might be able to then to revise for our final project at the end of the semester. Good luck, everybody. Have a great day.